know that you said your dad was like a huge fan of like a wide variety of genres of musics, and you all went to like a lot of different concerts. So I was going to ask you, I guess, what's one of those concerts that maybe stuck out for you, and I guess what led you to your musical passion? I guess if maybe was that part of the process, kind of through your dad, inspired through all his genres of music, just checking different things out.
Yeah, I think it definitely had a big impact on it. And I can't leave out my mom with that because I forget about this sometimes, but she took me to a Metallica concert when I was when I was in middle school. She got some tickets for work, and she was like, "Would you want to go to this?" And I was like, "Yeah, but are you sure you want to go to this?"
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
That was pretty hardcore for back then in the middle school. Yeah.
So yeah, like the experiences that I had going to concerts definitely had a big impact. It's kind of funny and a little embarrassed. Like the first concert that my dad took me to was Weird Al.
Oh really? Yeah. I remember.
So,
Weird Al.
but what was cool about that and what I came away from was like the talent. Like that dude can play every instrument, and the showmanship. Like there was a very entertaining show.
Yeah.
You know, even though it wasn't something that you're like you want to tell everybody like, yeah, my first show is Weird Al. But looking back on it, I was definitely drawn to like the connection and the showmanship of it. You know, the energy. But then I think when I got more pulled into really wanting to make music a career, it was more with the bigger sort of acts. I know my dad took me to a Alan Parsons concert, and he's another like incredible musician, and it wasn't as like wild energy sort of thing, but the musicianship was something that was really cool. And my dad would always mention like the sounds, like how like you see how like they put that certain sound together, and how this, and he was always very like inquisitive about how something happened, which made me start to maybe explore it a little bit. And then one of the other concerts that really stood out is I convinced him to take me to the Master P and Snoop Dogg concert. So back when No Limit was happening, and you went to the store and you got every single CD case that had that No Limit like
every
design
week,
on
two
it.
times a week, maybe. Yeah.
And you open it up and there's 80 other like records that they just released. Just incredible marketing, But what was cool about that show was obviously the energy. Like they packed out. I think it was at Cobo Hall in downtown Detroit, and the place was like was sold out. It was it was crazy, and the energy that they had on on stage and all the different artists. It started to give me this idea of the collaborative process of things, because obviously like Master P was the head honcho, and then they signed Snoop. And so they did this big tour because he was on No Limit now, and it was like a big deal, for him to cross over with them. And so like those were the headliners, but there was probably 50 other artists that performed like during, like no kidding, during the show, because they had everybody.
Yeah, no, I already know. Yeah, definitely.
And so like that whole like the energy of all those people on stage and all those people collaborating together, I think that definitely had a big impact on me.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess. Who would you say would be your personal, or who's your personal influence, one of your biggest influence personally, and then one of your biggest influence musically that you would kind of say so far?
I think Tupac was the first artist that like I wanted to know everything about him because of all the dimensions that he had to his personality. Like his music was incredible, but he was an actor and a poet and an activist and someone that was outspoken. And just had a really great like talent for music itself, but there was also so much depth to to what he did, and so like his writing and also like creating his own cadence within rap, so like in a period of time where like in the 80s there's like a certain way that kind of like everybody's rapping, and everybody has a little bit of their own rhythm, but there was definitely like a cadence that was like with like that era, and then Tupac definitely came out and had like his own thing with a lot of the alliteration and like the triplet stuff and the internal rhymes, and so all of that was really interesting to me from a writing perspective, and then the depth to just him as an entertainer. It showed me that like you could be in the music industry and have these different ways of expressing yourself through different types of art. That was really interesting. I never had the opportunity to see him perform, which I'm super bummed out about. But hearing all of his music, watching all of his movies, like I think he was the first artist that like I really like just dove into and wanted to know everything about. And then growing up in Detroit, Kid Rock was someone that like stood out to me as another like rebel, you know, sort of like taking these different influences that he had and pulling them together into his own unique sound, which I really dug. And then once I saw him live, I was like, this dude's the real deal. Like his energy on stage and the energy of the crowd, because of that energy. I mean, it's just nonstop like action, you know, the whole time. And the fact that he played multiple instruments and just was just a real talent beyond just a performer. You know, I really fell in love with it. And then I think just his pride for Detroit, you know, and that whole thing. But I think I was drawn to him because of that collaboration of influences. So all those different styles of music, because at that time, like this is around like middle school when I started really having like artists that I was huge fans of, you know. I was a fan of different styles of stuff. You know, I really loved hip hop. I liked rock music. I liked pop music. And I was just a fan of these, you know, different styles, and was really interested in exploring like why different things sounded certain ways and why certain songs made me feel different ways in different environments and stuff. And so I think I gravitated towards artists that were hybrid, you know, in their influences. And some other artists like that I think about is like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, groups like that were bringing like the idea of hip hop and rock together and then doing it in a very commercial way that was very much like totally ready for radio and very, very commercial, and like the songwriting and arrangement of it. But in the sounds, they were combining these really deep like hip hop grooves with this really aggressive and energetic, you know, rock music and stuff. And I just always loved like Motown and soul stuff. And I think that's just because of the groove. And probably because a lot of the hip hop stuff I was listening to was all influenced by that. So all the samples that they're using in there, so I wanted to hear the original stuff. I think it was my grandparents that had this collection of like the whole like Motown catalog. And I still have it in our lounge in there. And it had like interviews and stories about the songs and how they came together and how the artists, you know, came together. And I was really influenced by Berry Gordy and the idea of creating this environment to create hits and create timeless music, and then just the massive success that they had, you know. And that's when I started, I think, getting more pulled towards looking at individuals that were behind the scenes than just the artists themselves. So I think I started to focus more on like the record executives and like the Russell Simmons, you know, and those types of folks, instead of the artists themselves. I was just such a diverse music fan that I didn't really pinpoint myself on like one sort of, you know, artist, but I did like buy every Russell Simmons book that he wrote and want to learn about like Rick Rubin's background and engineers like Al Schmidt. And just there was a lot more to that I was really started getting drawn to.